Hello, hello, and welcome back to Nap Trapped. Hello, Beck.
Hi, Sally. Welcome back.
I know it's exciting. We want to thank everyone, first of all, for the incredible messages of support and solidarity for
Yes.
this podcast because it is reaching ears all around the world, which blows our minds from our
Oh.
little humble home studios.
I know it's very exciting. Even just where we're ranked in some of these countries, it's to hear that other
I think
countries
we're
are
very
listening to
popular
us.
in Sweden. So if you're listening to us in
Yes.
Sweden, hello,
Yes, my husband said,
welcome.
"Oh, instead of the caps, maybe you need T-shirts printed that say big in Sweden." And I'm like,
Big in
have-
Sweden. All right. Well, stay tuned for the next round of merch. We haven't even got the caps here yet. They will be here in a couple of weeks.
I know it's
Now,
very exciting.
today we are talking about a question that we get asked all the time, and I think it's a really normal and common thing to wonder is how long should it take my baby to fall asleep at nap time and night I can't even say it at nap time and nighttime because there is varying fluctuations and babies can cry and be they can escalate. Where do we draw the line of what is normal and what maybe needs a longer wake window? What's your sort of hot take on this, Beck?
I think in terms of like a normal sort of time frame for little ones to fall asleep, I would say maybe 10 to 15 minutes is probably where
Mm-hmm.
it's at. So I don't necessarily blink an eye if I'm working with families and I took 10 minutes to fall asleep, that's okay. And in
Mm.
terms of like what we're expecting, it's some little ones are going to be super chill and calm and they're going to play with their comforter or take their dummies in and out or, sort of thump their legs a little bit as they fall asleep. And others will be they'll have a bit of an emotional release as they sort of fall
Mm.
asleep. Not in a negative way, but in oh my gosh, I'm so ready for a nap. I'm so
Mm.
tired. Neurologically tapping out just a little bit. So that
Mm.
can sometimes feel like a 10 out of 10 um, on the crying scale. But it's probably important to recognize that when we are working on sleep initially, so for families that are working with you and I with perhaps our 2 week solutions and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
that you might find that initially when you're doing sleep work, they fall asleep very quickly for their naps.
Mm.
And we can sort of like, and that because they're ready, we're sort of pushing wake windows to their appropriate time frames. We're bulking up milk feeds and so forth. So they've got really nice full tummies. So everything seems to feel like it slots into place really easily when we're
Mm.
initially starting with sleep. And then what can sometimes happen, and we sort of see this in this new social a lot, is that, over time as their skill set develops and their nights start to improve, that they are more well rested going into the day. And then that's where those longer spells of settling can sometimes, take shape.
Yeah, and look, even in the house of a sleep consultant, I have
Mm,
experienced all of those things.
yeah.
For probably one whole year, my second baby, who, if you've been listening, you know he gave me a bit of a run for my money when it came to sleep. And he's now, like, he's been an incredible sleeper for a long, long time. But for a solid year, he cried every bedtime
Mm,
for 60 to 90 seconds, and it would feel like quite an escalated cry, and then he would sleep 12 hours.
yeah.
And the night where he stopped doing that, it was like, is there something like it was so
Yeah.
quiet? It had just become this pattern. And now that I know him as an older toddler, and this beautiful toddler does not stop talking from the moment he
Mm,
opens his eyes to the moment he shuts them. And now
yeah.
I realize, like, I think you just maybe you need to get the last word in.
Oh,
That would
yeah.
be very much my genes. Like, I've got something to say to you
Yeah.
about sleep. But also processing. Like,
Yeah.
he just needed to let it all out. He didn't have
Mm,
words. He couldn't sing to himself or
yeah.
hum or do something else. And so it manifested as a little cry out every
Mm,
night, and it doesn't happen anymore. But I think it can be off-putting or unnerving, I should say, for families that think, aren't they meant to hop in? And then is there something wrong
mm,
when that happens? And we're here to say that for some babies, that is incredibly normal. So do
yeah.
not panic if that's what you're experiencing.
Mm,
And in terms of the sleep onset latency phase, so that's the time it takes for a baby to fall asleep. to your point of when we're working with families one-on-one to fix sleep problems, they fall asleep very quickly also because they are exhausted, because for X amount of months leading up to us working together, they've been waking 8 times overnight. They've been taking 18-minute naps. The
Yeah.
sleep, the sleep pressure is high, and so they
Yeah.
have a tendency to just conk out, which
Mm.
feels great and successful in the moment, and it's exactly what we want to see. And then, as you said, it's really normal for their reserve to increase as their sleep totals rebuild and redistribute across the whole 24 hours. The
Mm.
way I sort of describe it to parents, and to be fair, we work with very tired parents, so it can feel like when their head hits the pillow, maybe they do feel like they fall asleep straight away.
Yeah.
But we don't.
Mm.
We lie down. I think about the shopping list. I think about parenting moments that
The
maybe I
never
did or
ending.
didn't nail during that. Yes. Did I get the school jumper out? Like all of these
Yes.
things. What am I doing in the morning? I must remember to pack this. Or I wonder how,
Mm.
well, if you're me, I am always, I wonder how that baby's sleeping. How did bedtime go
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we don't just fall asleep immediately. And the same
Mm.
is for our babies. And so, for the most part, for me, unless we are talking hours of crying,
Mm.
then that would signal something's wrong. If your baby's taking 30 minutes and they're happy and they do the odd call out, it doesn't bother me.
Mm.
That can be really normal. We want them to learn that they can chill out, they can process the day, they can roll around and wind down.
Mm. There are definitely times when there is maybe a scheduling rejig that's
Mm-hmm.
necessary in terms of, using correct wake windows and building the right sort of sleep pressure. But for families that are working with us, once we've sort of got those wake windows nutted out, we kind of work to the idea that they are ready for sleep, and we just sort of need to let them move on with it. So, for example, um, let's just say for a 10-month-old who is napping until 3:30, their bedtime is going to be somewhere between 7 and 7:30, so somewhere around that
Mm-hmm.
sort of 3.5 to 4 hours, probably pushing 4 hours at this mark. And if they're
Mm,
going into the cot at around the 7:30 mark, and they're taking 30 minutes to fall asleep, but they're just low grade. They're sort of, roller coastering. There's a little bit of high, but a little bit of low, and they're mucking around. I wouldn't change anything. I,
mm,
I would sort of go, okay, well, you've got your 4 hour wake window. It's not necessarily a scheduling issue. It's more so that they're just moving through the motions of falling asleep and, like you said, processing their day.
mm,
And I think it's really important to have for families a really clear bedtime. So
mm.
you're working towards the end of the day and everyone's gearing up for bedtime, and to be able to have a hot dinner with your partner, or a glass of wine, or just sit down and watch a show, or get stuck into the housework, whatever it might be. But
Don't
having a
tempt me
really
with a
set
good time,
bedtime.
Beck.
Yeah, I know.
That sounds very
I
nice.
know. I know. I used to like when it was when the block is on each year. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
there must be so many families like in a rush to get their kids down, like to make sure
Quick,
everyone's asleep. Yeah.
our stories are on.
But yeah, no, I think that it's super important to have a predictable bedtime that you're working towards, and even if you feel like they are sort of mucking around at bedtime and taking a little while to fall asleep, it's not necessarily anything that you need to rejig if you're at your max wake window at that point.
Mm.
Does that
I
make
think it's
sense?
also, yeah, it,
Mm.
it does that we have, once we know that the schedule is age appropriate,
Yeah.
you let them take however long they
Mm.
need to fall asleep. And I think sometimes what can happen is when you've gone from these really quick, what feel like easy bedtime falling asleep moments, and then for whatever reason it gets a bit longer, it can sometimes be tempting to intervene.
Yeah.
And then that can also then quickly become habitual, like, oh,
Mm.
if I escalate a bit more, mum or dad or whoever will come in. And then that can kind of just perpetuate this, whereas it may have just been a bit of a furphy, a bit of an even over tiredness, like
Mm.
they had something to say. And, but understandably, as parents, we often want to fix.
Mm,
Sometimes it doesn't need to be fixed, and we can create a bit of a pattern ongoing. So
mm.
if you know that your schedule is watertight, you mostly leave them to it. Let them
Especially if they can
process.
self-settle.
Yes, yes.
Yes, like if you
Um,
know your little one
let them
can
use that skill.
self-settle, let them go and do that. It's sort of different. I'm so sorry to cut you off, Sally, but it
No,
really
not at
just sort
all.
of I remind it reminded me to sort of say if if they don't have the ability to self-settle, it's sort of a little bit of a different story. If you know that they've got
Good
that
point.
skill set, then you kind of just let them, you do leave them
Mm,
to it. Because you don't, sometimes there's a tendency to want to rush or speed up the process of them falling asleep. And that's what you were, mentioning before is that you don't really want to start trying to speed the process up by going in and assisting because that will lead to a habitual settling
mm.
period before you sort of go in and do all the things. So, um, yeah, it's a funny one. The old, how long does
I
it
actually
take?
think it also applies for not only babies, which is primarily who you and I work with, but also toddlers and even school-aged children. We
Mm,
want to create this sort of expectation and pattern very early on that we have a set bedtime,
mm,
and it is okay to then in their own little world think about what happened that day, who did they play with, who stole their car, what will mummy serve me for breakfast in the morning, oh, we're going to a play center, and they can just
yep.
start to process. But it's always happened, so they know that there is this time. I was trying to think about how long it might take my 3.5-year-old to fall asleep. I actually don't know. It's definitely not
Mm,
2 minutes unless we've had some monster of a day. I'd say it's
yeah.
more like 20.
Yeah.
And
I
he now
reckon that
has
would
some
have been the
cars, and
same.
then I hear him drop them out. That's his pattern. He plays, he drops them out, and then he
And he's
must
out
go to
like a
sleep. But
light.
I
Yeah.
don't watch. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't watch. I just I leave him to it, and he's
Mm,
happy.
mm.
But I don't know. So sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
Just
that's right. Mm,
give them some space to do it. The other thing I wanted to touch on that sort of comes into this because we've talked about nights, but it's sort of same for naps. And often when I work with families that are working to a schedule, or perhaps they haven't yet worked to a schedule, and I give them one, and let's say we're saying, okay, at 5 months old, your first nap is going to be 9 till 10 a.m., for example. They sometimes think that baby needs to be asleep by 9 a.m. So maybe
yes.
they start the settling
Mm,
at 8:45,
mm,
and then we've kind of missed that window. So for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you're similar, Beck, that those scheduled times are either when we are popping baby down into their cot for them to self-settle,
yep.
and they fluff around for 5 to 10 minutes, bang their legs, suck their thumb, have a quick cry, and then put themselves to sleep.
Yep.
Or we start the assistance maybe just a couple of minutes before, if not at 9. So you start rocking at 9, you start bouncing on the fitball till 9, whatever it is that your sleep assistance is, you start
Mhm.
it then because it just gets absorbed into the nap time. So if they're a rock star self-settler and you pop them into their cot and they do spend that 5 to 10 minutes fluffing around, you don't need to extend the nap. You would still wake them at the set time. It's just all part of nap time,
Mm,
if
a
that makes
really
sense.
good point. Yes, definitely a really good point because there is a tendency, and you see it quite a bit, where the nap might start at 9, but mum and dad or whoever's doing the settling is going in at 8:40, and
Mm,
they're rocking and they're holding, and it's taking 20 minutes to fall asleep, and they feel like we've aced it. We've absolutely aced
mm.
it. We've got them down, but
Asleep
the
by 9.
yeah, problematic wise, it's the fact that baby's not exerting the energy and you're doing the
Mm,
absolutely every single layering to falling asleep is done by you. So, when you sort of think about sleep, you have to be 100% awake and then you move through the
mhm,
layering of starting to feel drowsy, feeling sleepy, conking out. And for 20 minutes, if the parents are doing that for their little one, they're doing every element of that layering system for their little one. So uh,
mm.
burn energy. That's what we want. Lots of energy. And then time in the cot is when the nap time begins. So
Yeah.
when the nap begins.
And if you think about it for a young baby who, let's say on this example, we're looking at maybe a 2-hour wake window for a 9 a.m. nap, out of 2 hours, 20 to 25 minutes is a fair chunk. Like they can build
Yeah.
sleep pressure and burn some energy in that time.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so it can actually make a difference. And it's one of the things that will also help families with older babies that are chronic cat nappers is making sure that they are in fact tired enough to fall asleep to take a longer nap rather
Mm.
than we got them down to sleep but a bit early and then wonder why they only took a 32-minute nap. We need to sort of max out the sleep pressure without hitting overtiredness, a fine line, I know, for
Mm.
many
Mm.
babies. And then we've set the stage for them to take a longer nap when we're troubleshooting catnapping as well.
The family that I'm working with at the moment, one of them has a chronic cat napper. We was taking 30-minute naps consistently for a really long time. And yesterday we had a 9:30 a.m. nap set out
Mm-hmm.
for nap one. Um, but I kept noticing in the logs that baby was asleep by like 9:28. So
Mm,
I know that it was just a fraction earlier. It wasn't anything major. So I wasn't super, but
mm,
I just said to mum this morning, let's see if we can go into the room at 9:30 and
yeah.
then, quick sleeping bag and book and blah, 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 blah. And then lo and behold, today he did an hour and 20 minutes.
It
And
makes a difference,
it
doesn't it?
makes a difference. Like I think that it's the space of a couple of minutes, but the extra couple of minutes that was spent on the floor, burning the energy, playing with the
Mm,
playmat, sort of, learning to sort of crawl and pull to stand and all the things,
mm,
um, just gives that little bit extra. So don't be afraid of just pushing the friendship right to the edge, in terms
mm.
of wake windows to get our little ones.
Yeah. Because then what has also probably happened is that by going down more so into the room and into the cot closer to the other side of 9:30 versus at 9:28 already asleep, is that if baby does then spend 5 or 10 minutes falling asleep, that will naturally get you to that, I'm just making up. I don't know how old this
Yeah.
baby is, but let's say we're getting to 9:30 till 11 a.m. nap
Yeah.
for a 9-month-old on 2 naps. Then they're going to probably wake closer to the 10:50 11
Yes.
a.m. versus they
Yep.
fell asleep at 9:28, they're going to wake in the earlier tens, in which case we got to troubleshoot the rest of the day. So we
Yeah.
need to factor in that time. They don't have to be asleep from exactly 9:30 to 11 a.m.
Mm.
We incorporate the self-settling time or the sleep assistance time from the beginning. It's okay if it's 15 minutes,
Mm.
especially if they're chill.
Yeah. And I think, when we're looking at routines, that's why it says 9:30 nap one, which
Mm.
really, if we were to get finicky, perhaps we could write in there into cot rather than,
Yes, yes.
so,
Intercot time.
yeah, but it doesn't say asleep. So 9:30 is not asleep. It is
Mm.
just into the cot for the nap. So yeah, we could look at sort of
And as
structuring
I
it
tell
differently.
parents all the time, we can't make them fall asleep. We
Oh.
can't make them stay asleep. So we just kind of have to say, this is the age appropriate schedule. We know that we've had plenty of time on the mat. We know that the wake window is appropriate. We know they've got a full tummy and the environment. Now let them do what they will.
Mm.
How they choose to spend their time during 9:30 to 11 is somewhat up to them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We can have a buffer on either side of the actual sleep time, just like you and I do. We take a few minutes to fall asleep, and we also don't wake up and just the alarm goes off and we get up. I take my time.
Oh no, I have a set routine of how many times I push snooze. So yeah,
You're a
no,
girl after my own heart, Bec.
yeah. I'm sure it annoys my husband to the death, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple of snoozes that go on at 5 o'clock in the morning, but we all, you know, I'm an early
I know,
riser
but
now.
it's your,
Like,
oh. Do you need the early rising protocol? Do you need to listen to our podcast, Bec?
I've got things to do, so I
You've got the
must get
gym to
up.
go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess all in all is we don't have a set number of like how many minutes exactly it should take for your baby to fall asleep or how many minutes is the wrong length of time for a baby to fall asleep. What we would say is that if you are on a great age appropriate schedule, and that's one of the jobs of a sleep consultant is to make sure that your baby is on the right schedule and that you have your feeds and all of the things lined up, it's okay that your baby, who maybe initially was falling asleep very quickly, has built up a bit more of a tolerance to awake time, let them take their time to fall asleep. It's okay. We don't need to fix the schedule unless there's something dramatically wrong. Let them. I sound like Mel
Perfect.
Robbins. Just let
Yes,
them.
you do. Just let them.
Let them sleep. Okay, well, hopefully that has answered a really valid question that, as I said at the beginning, we get asked all the time. Okay, that was a quick, punchy little episode. We will see you next week on Nap Trapped. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.